There's a very basic philosophical idea when you're setting up a company that you have to realize that alone you're unable to do anything notable. So if you're alone or if you're a few people, it is impossible that you're going to deal with everything.
I think it's quite common for companies to start with 2, 3, 4 co-founders, and maybe at some point only a few of them are continuing the adventure.
Key is really to share the passion, to explain what we are doing, explain where we are going, show that the effort pays off, and get everybody on board.
It's not trying to do everything and nano-managing and micromanaging, but setting up a system that is going to execute and deliver results. When you're choosing a co-founder, the most important element is the vision fit. If your vision is not fitting, at one day there's going to be a dispute. And it's the number one reasons that startup fails is the vision misfit founder. So you have to do that. What we did is that we had some discussion at the beginning, even before we incorporated the company, on what are our vision, personal vision, what we want in life. And in that, what really this startup is going to correspond to, what is the length of that, and at the same time the professional part, who wants to do what, and who would like to grow into which role as the company grows. There are things that I want to do, and there are things that I hate to do, and you find out that those parts that you hate sometimes is the dream job of somebody else. So it's really important to find a sort of fit in what everybody is looking for to do. And there should be some alignment on the character. Character is very important, but at the same time, your interest on the execution and doing should be complementary. To have in a nutshell, we have the visionary and realistic, negotiator versus consensus, and competitive versus collaborative. My co-founder Diego, CTO, and me, I am more in a visionary type. I would like to do the things. I would like to make huge projects with a lot of risk. And he's always the one, look, it's not so easy, just come back to the ground. And this tension, in my opinion, is a very healthy tension where we are not losing any opportunity. We are still visionary while we are being realistic. There are also negotiators versus consensus types. In a team, you need some negotiators, and in a team that you need consensus types. So that you can work together, but at the same time, if you disagree, you can find the common ground. And the final is the competitive and the collaborative. So there are competitive cultures, people who define themselves within competition with colleagues, which has to be put into the roles according to basically like business development roles or other sales roles, because there you really need the competitive part. There are also the collaborative ones, people who define themselves by helping to the others. So this is also extremely important in technical teams. This is really necessary, especially in the basic technical functions. In administrative teams, this is extremely important. So if the people are put into the right role, then they're going to be happy and they will be much more productive and things will go much flawless.
The co-founders need to be open-minded, positive, and willing to discuss any issues between the members and find a compromise, just in a typical Swiss way.
They need to be hard worker, to be motivated. They have to be humble, trying not having someone who feel himself different and better than the others. They should be also in the same spirit as we are.
So among our co-founders, what we did from the initial days is to clearly define everybody's responsibilities and roles. Problems that I see in other entrepreneurial teams where they try to make a sort of consensus on and everybody does everything thing. At the very beginning, this is necessary because you cannot escape. You're very little people. But after a while, it has to be clear that which part is whose responsibility. Now, the second is the getting dirty work done. If you're not talking about with your co-founders, also with your employees, that there are some dirty works that we have to share and do, it's a big problem because that work is going to be like thrown from one person to the other, never done. For example, some necessary financial reporting that we have to do every month that I am doing myself. One of my co-founders are taking more of the administrative aspects where all the salaries has to be corrected and checked. And finally, there's the covering each other's back. In a small team like this, there's no place for politics. If some of your colleagues are doing something wrong, we have to tell them this is wrong. But at the same time, we have to acknowledge that everybody can do mistakes. We are covering you. We are not going to take you down, or we are going to put you in a bad position in front of the employees or in front of investors. Well, splitting the shares, that's what we called about the hard talk. And this is a talk that everybody avoids until it's extremely critical, and when it's critical, it's too late to discuss. What we did, we made a system and we calculated according to that system, and then we negotiated. But at least there was a basis for negotiation. There are three notions. You have to agree to be fair. Should be no hard feelings, because this is a discussion that sometimes can go quite hot. Founders agreement is an early version of the shareholders agreement. It's basically you're writing down all the essence of what you agreed during the split about who's going to own which percentage. But if you're incorporating the company at that point, it's also very important to have the good levers and bad levers. And then you can add some other notions of the shareholders agreement, but this is really the essence that you have to put there. The most important is to have a culture of listening and discussing openly. And here there's no good recipe, but what I can tell is what to avoid. And one of the first things to avoid is only considering analytical parameters. Very typical PhD mistake. I made a PhD, I know from myself. It is not only the analytical parameters. It's not only about the numbers, how many hours that you're working. There's a lot of emotional parameters there. So you have to incorporate all of those. Ask if there's a decision, how do you feel about it? Now, there are also other problems like lawyering too early, going to lawyers extremely early. You have to trust if this is a person that you're not trusting, possibly you shouldn't be doing your startup with, and also incorporating too early. It has some other implications, but I do not recommend incorporating too early. Next thing that I would avoid is the high-performing jerks. So these are usually people who justify a social bad behavior or emotional bad behavior to the other colleagues because they're performing very good. So this is a real bomb all the team is sitting on. Being very successful and important for the company is one thing. Undermining to the others' work and demoralizing them is completely something else. It shouldn't be avoided. And personally, for me, it's a no-go if I perceive somebody as a high-performing jerk.
I was really attracted to coach this company because of the fundamental respect that all the team members have for each other, that the fact that they are so diverse from a cultural and a gender perspective, and the fact that they were willing to listen and learn and were so open to advice and ideas. And I've witnessed the evolution of the team, and from where they started prior to setting up the company, up to me taking them to the label has just been truly remarkable, and I believe was one of the key elements.